Hi there. So I have the unique situation of repairing this plaster wall at my home it's covering brickwork. It's not against laths. So if you're looking for a video to help you repair with some laths involved, or even cutting out drywall, or cut out a section and replace it with drywall, this won't be the type of video for you. I'm going to use a different method here. This will be more educational walkthrough, so there will be quite a bit involved. It'll be a longer video, just to warn you now. Go over pretty thorough the steps and stages, what I'm going to do here. So it's going to be pretty involved. I'll get into it here in a minute. Don't want to waste a whole lot of time talking on what I've got going on here. If you see any of my other videos, you see kind of what I've landed in at this point. So it's mostly just going to be the study and help somebody if I can help you. So even if it's just that one person that sees this and I was able to help you, then nice to meet you and you're welcome. Or if I catch some feedback in the comments and some helpful tips, stuff like that, then it's nice to meet you too, and thank you. So that's kind of how that works. So I'll get right in the situation I'm at now. Everything has been scraped down, sanded, set up, and basically prep where I want it at this point. And there's still a lot of cracks that'll need, they would call chamfered, which means open up that crack a little bit, because if you haven't heard or don't have that knowledge, a lot of times if you just try to paint over a small crack or mud over it, eventually it will come back, whether 6 months, a couple of years. So they like to, they call chamfer them out. Yeah, different than drywall. My approach on that, if it was drywall, I would take the carpenter knife and just cut down the crack and then basically channel a V out to do a pre-fill in, probably with Durabond most likely there. Durabond 90 I think I use. For the first stage, I'll be trying to give it a better base type of foundation before I start opening more cracks. It'll be hard to see in this video where the camera's set up. I don't have my partner today, so I'm doing this solo. There's a thin crack, runs all the way down here. Another thin crack here. A lot of thin cracks around this area, major problem area. So I don't want to completely just start weakening the whole section, opening all those cracks. I want to give it a better base, if you will. So what I'll do is, there's a crack that runs along there and then curves up here. I want to open up all of this bigger sections, and then I'll be using this Durham's Rock Hard Putty. To me, it works extremely well, strong and long term. Just be careful, because you start screwing up, be very difficult to cut it out, carve it out, scrape it out, sand it out, any of that type of stuff. Durabond's pretty strong too, but I definitely think this is stronger. You're going for a strong base. Durabond is strong too, but I've noticed personally I could sand Durabond just a little better. Don't get me wrong, it's still tough to sand the Durabond, but this definitely stronger. So I'm gonna go over all the steps and break it down. Probably be some time lapses in here. It's probably gonna take me, I'd say when it's all said and done, run time of probably about 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours between grabbing stuff and the process. Did the best I could with the camera and the lighting. So I'll start getting into what I want to do. I'll have to move the camera for a section up top. There's a big gap, chunk, whatever you want to call it, needs to be removed up there. Most of the rest I can catch where the camera's sitting right now. So that'll be this section here. I kind of can tap too to see what's hollow behind, you know, you can tell it's not, no adhesion, if you want to call it that, to the bricks behind. So you can kind of tap, and probably can't pick it up on there. It's got way more hollow sound than a solid tap to it. So a lot of this loose stuff is about to come out. I'll be glad to get this done and over with, because I knew I wanted to get back to this and start opening it up so I can get into the next stages, which I can kind of wipe out altogether with pre-filling and stuff like that. But I'm not going to get anywhere until I get this more of a solid base to it. So that being said, I think that's it as far as the intro on what I'm about to do. So I'll just pull out what I can by hand for starters. I know that was going to come out. There may be, like I said, a good amount of time lapses because I'll need to run and grab stuff, so I'll edit that. So yeah, as you can see, we've got brick back here, and I'm just going to build in over that. There won't be any. I don't know the word. If anybody could help me in the comments, I'd love that. Whatever, when you catch the pieces of wood, you know, that you'll drywall onto, not really a stud. I wouldn't call it a stud because it's going to be such a small strip of wood. If you would cut out a big section and wanted to anchor in some wood strips, and then you could drywall to that, that's a method. If you're looking for that style, this won't be that. It's just building in with pretty strong mud. So I'll get into what I need to do. Start opening all this up. So probably see me working quite a bit from here and not as much stopping and talking. So I'll just bear with me on everything. Okay, those are sections I knew just from walking past the past few days. I'd be able to just probably mostly open them up by hand, pretty easy with no cutting. So next point I've reached, I'm going to go ahead and cut into it with the oscillating tool and this rounded blade. I'm just going to cut where I need cut. Down here, if I remember right, the camera's set up. I would hope to catch this. I'll probably have to take a look in a second. It's cracked from here to there. Probably goes beyond the, I'm pretty sure it goes beyond the baseboard, but just for time purposes, I'm not going to go into why. I want to just go ahead and cut. Be a longer explanation, and at some point those baseboards will get removed, and I'll probably deal with what's going on behind there at that point, rather than removing baseboards. And just a quick rundown, ran into building out without the baseboards. When I got to skim coating and stuff like that, I built out too much, I think, before. So I want to kind of leave these baseboards for now as a guide how thick I want to do the mud and skim coating throughout the stages. And it'll be a long while before I start replacing the wood to these steps and baseboards anyway. So for now, I'm just going to give a straight cut there. So that's why my explanation why I choose to do that. As you can see, bricks here, no laths. So like I said, this is a bit unique. So I'm going to use the oscillating tool and start opening stuff up more. And definitely safety glasses. Okay, as you can see, I've completely opened most of this up. Hopefully you're catching me in the camera, so I can just kind of point out a couple. There's cracks coming off of all this, but to tap on it, it seems pretty solid all around it. So that's why I'm not just completely removing everything. I mean, like I said, so different people, different strategies or whatever. Some may recommend just completely cut all this out and drywall it up. I guess my biggest explanation why I'm choosing this is it'd be a lot of custom cuts if I was to drywall the whole wall, and a lot of anchoring into the bricks with no laths or anything. So it's a bit more involved than people would think. It's easy just to say, well, I just cover it with drywall, but not 100% sure how strong the mortar and brickwork is, or how many layers of bricks. So like there's cracking here, cracks coming out here, cracks coming across there, cracks all over the place, but I'm not going to open up all these cracks until I get all this filled in and solid. So I'll reposition the camera and we'll get back to the next stage. I would say this stage is pretty well complete. I've been looking it over for a week or so now. I knew exactly what I wanted to get opened up, so I've opened up everything for the most part that I want to. Now I need to get into the next stage, so I'll get the camera moved. We'll get into that. Okay, so I guess if you wanted to call it this stage, what I'm gonna do now is go get me a broom, and you know, want to keep your footing solid. I'm on the steps, stuff like that, so you want to keep safety in mind. There's big pieces, quite a bit, you know, doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it's decent amount on the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and sweep that up real quick, get a little bit of a cleanup going on, and then I can work and maneuver quite a bit easier at that point. So that's what I'm going to do, is clean this floor. So just a little helpful tip, it's always handy to get a bit of a bigger, sturdier dustpan. Just a helpful tool to have. They make some bigger than this, but yeah, I highly recommend getting one that's strong, because some of this is a smaller little batch, but it's when it gets so heavy, you break the handle or something, easier to time management, just sweep a lot more up in a bigger one. So just a little tip for you. Okay, now that I got the floor all swept up, I can maneuver around a lot easier. So what I want to do now is start cleaning it up. You don't want to just start mudding on top of a bunch of dust and crumbles and stuff like that. So I want to clean this area up. So probably time lapse through that too. My method I like most of the times is going to be shot back first, then hit it with the air gun, and then probably shot back again most times. Reasoning for that is I don't want to go in there and just start blowing a bunch of unnecessary dust and stuff around if I can get it with the shot back first. So, but then again, kind of different effect. Sometimes that air does help knock out and loosen up stuff where the shot back's not strong enough to suck it out of there. So that's why I like to work both. I'll come in and I'm about to give it shot back, then the air, then back to shot back. And it's all these opened up sections. Not too worried about the floor at this point. I'll get that again later. I got the majority up and I'm comfortable with that for now. So that's what I'm about to do. Okay, I give it a pretty thorough vacuuming. Probably couldn't tell in the time lapse. I did grab this scraper and help kind of the more kind of drawing a blank real quick. I was more stubborn little pieces that weren't wanting to come out for me. I was holding that and kind of working at them with the scraper. So next I'm going to go grab the air gun, my little pancake air compressor, and I'll blow out as much as I can. Highly recommend, if you have one, wear the mask. If you don't, I'd highly recommend that you get one. 'Cause I've seen I've just seen old dust and a lot of filth coming out of there. So who knows how long it's been up there, older house, you don't want to be breathing that stuff. So I'll get the mask on, get the air gun, time lapse through that stage. If you're not familiar with the term time lapse, that just means speed up. When I'm speeding up my footage, that's what they call that, time lapsing it. So yeah, about the time lapse through that, and then I will come back at it again with the vacuum once I've blown it all out. And then so I'll be back when I get through that. Okay, as you can see, I did have the mask and safety glasses on for that, using the air gun. I'm gonna give it the shot back one more time real quick. I did have to stop a couple times and wait on my air compressor to fill back up with air. I was using up all the air in it. So I'm already at like 50 minutes into it on camera time. Hopefully it won't be that sped up time. About to get right into the vacuum stage. Now, you give it the last shot back and then I'll come back with the next stages. Okay, so that was again the shot back to the air gun, back to the shot back. So basically all that stage I was doing was clearing out anything loose that I possibly could. Long term, want to give it the best adhesion you can. A lot of times that loose debris can create problems. So from here, what I want to do now is I'll get a wet rag, probably just some warm water, maybe a couple in a little bucket of water. And I'm going to come through and I'm going to wipe down all these bricks. So I want to try to clean them off just a little bit if I can. Not a whole lot to describe in that stage. If I notice that the rag and the wiping is creating more crumbling and a little bit more, I'll probably give it a quick shot back again. But other than that, that's what I'm going to do real quick. I'll just speed through that also. Okay, I got the wipe down done. This will give me a minute to let that water dry up a bit. And I did run into a slight situation. Luckily, that's all it is, a slight situation. Fortunate it's not worse. Just a hair of, slight little bit of crumbled brick. So we're going to take this chisel, and luckily it's just kind of cracked and going to be hard to see on the camera, but I'll remove it and then kind of show you the little piece. Hopefully it doesn't break into a bunch of little pieces, but it's not real big. It's just right here. Try to get it out with my scraper while I was wiping down, just kind of quick, thinking maybe it would pull right out, but it didn't. So I'm going to take the chisel to it and give it a couple taps, and hopefully that'll gonna be pretty gentle. I don't want to start damaging brickwork and old mortar behind here unnecessarily, so be pretty careful how I'm tapping at this. Okay, just a couple pieces came off, a little bit more kind of crumbled out on it. Luckily it didn't start shattering the brick. Like I said, if something would happen to you like that, be extremely careful. Last thing you want to do is start shattering out brickwork. So, something like this. It's a bad enough job the way it is. But it's nice footage, because say I get into the next bedroom and I run into something. From what I'm seeing, luckily it'll be pretty minimal compared to any of this, so that's why I'm going a lot more thorough on this video. I'll give it another quick little vacuum and I'll be back for the next stage. Okay, while I was wiping down with the rag, I did see some plaster crumbling still. Just a hair from, the wipe down, so I saw it falling around. And then with what happened, chisel out that little piece. Try to pay attention to detail, so I'd recommend always clear out as much of that as you can. So I went ahead and gave it that one more dose with the shop vac. So what I'll get into in this stage is you're going to want to get you some adhesive, bonding agent for the bricks. Personally, I would recommend it. The rock hard putty is very strong. Every little bit helps out, in my opinion, on something like this, so why not? I already have the material around. It's used for mortaring, bases around covering bricks, stuff like that. So some different uses in the brickwork world. So I'll get me a little bucket and a little old kind of paintbrush, old, obviously clean. You don't want to be going ahead and putting debris back on there with a dirty brush. So this stuff's pretty runny. I'd say it's texture of like a milk. So kind of careful how you get it on the brush. It will run on you. So I try not to go too super heavy with it, because it'll start running down, seeping all over the place. But I do, say it was outside, I do go pretty heavy with it. I keep it inside because I don't use it all the time, but I don't put it in the garage or basement, stuff like that, because it says it does have a temperature situation with that. A requirement not to go under a certain temp, so, and it even tells you to discard it. It's also got a cancer warning. Something to think about, something about with the handling. I'd have to read it again, or you can read them. I don't see it right offhand. I know I read it though somewhere in here. I'll speed up to it, I'll find it. That's a kind of major warning people would want to be aware of, so I'll find that real quick and tell you what it says. Okay, I did find it. I don't know that I should sit here and kind of talk crazy about it and say it's hilarious, but it says not a hazardous substance or mixture, followed by big bold letters of warning: cancer and reproductive harm. Yeah, it's got a website you can go to about warnings. So Yeah, I don't understand why at the very top it'll say not a hazardous substance or mixture, followed by a warning in big letters, cancer and reproductive harm. So, it says to wash skin thoroughly after handling. Use personal protective equipment as required. If inhaled, move to fresh area. If on skin, wash with plenty of soap and water. If in eyes, rinse. Obviously, if swallowed, rinse the mouth. Do not try to induce vomiting. If it persists, get a hold of medical advice and gives you medical information who to contact, poison control, and all that type of stuff. So I, for sure, if you have kids, would lock it up somewhere, keep it out of their reach. I don't want them thinking it's milk and drinking. Okay, so I'll get into what I'm going to do with this. And I will say, I've seen people using in the masonry stuff, using well bond. I didn't see well bond at Lowe's or any hardware stores in my region, so I've looked for the well bond. I saw it on Amazon. I may go ahead and order that once this is used up. I have brickwork to do outside this summer, so when the temperatures are more permitting, I'll be back out there and this will be getting used then too. So I think next time, I've used a couple of these. Can't really say with fresh brickwork how much the adhesion is actually working. Done no experiments on that, but you know, and like I said, that rock hard putty is extremely strong. But I'm like, why not? I've already got it opened up. I might as well put a little bit of this on the bricks and help adhesion, hopefully in the bond. So, and I'll come on with the rock hard putty. So I'm going to get me a little bucket and my brush I normally use with this stuff. And then I'll come back, and I don't know if I'll speak or not at that point. Most likely not. I've already talked quite a bit, and this being a long video. So I'll most likely come back with the bucket. Just pour some in here. It doesn't say anything about adding water or anything like that. As you can see it, hopefully it shows up on camera, but it's like I said, it's like a milk. So I'll get in there, I'll come back and I'll brush it everywhere. I'll even get it most likely along all these edges of the plaster. I'll just go through all of it and do it all, and then be back at that point. Okay, so now as you just saw, I ran into another area as I was working a little bit closer up on stuff. I realized that just to round it off crack, give it a quick hit with the hammer and chisel, and that it came right out. So a few things going through my mind as I was applying this to the bricks. For sure, get your safety glasses. You don't want it splattering back in your eye, especially with those type of hazard warnings. Trying to think what else I wanted to mention. Now I'm going to have to stop for a second and clean up that little bit of area right there that crumbled out while I chiseled it away, so not a big deal. Glad I saw it now. And then there was also, I think, a section up here. So I'll go ahead and clean that up just a little bit. I won't go into the detail. You guys, if you've watched this long, you've already seen what I'm doing in the process until this point. So I'll just kind of repeat that in a quick version off camera. Wipe it down, clean it up real quick, sweep it all out, and we'll get into the next stage from there. Seems like there was something else going through my mind while I was applying it I wanted to share, but can't think of it right offhand. Mainly safety first once again, so get your safety glasses on. And personally, I mean, I do know I should most likely be wearing a mask with those type of warnings, and it's not like being outside. Um, Even outside, you've got the warnings on there, so it's something to keep in mind. Not a big area. I'm not working with it long period of time. I'm going to get it on there and then cover it. I'm not trying to make light of it, but it's not like I'm working with it for hours on a daily basis. I was trying to careful how I breathe too. Didn't go real super heavy. I know how it is and how it can run and drip. So I'll clean that up and I'll be back. Okay, so now I've got that cleaned up and matched up to go with the rest. Next thing I'll be doing is I will be going and mixing up my rock hard putty in a pan. So I'll go mix it up and I'll try to get some type of measurements on how much water. That's all you'll add. You're not going to need glue. A lot of times I add glue to the wood glue. You know, I wood glue to like the hot muds, the Quickset and Durabond. Not going to need the glue with this stuff from what I've ever seen, so it'll just be adding some water. And then when I return, I'll give you the measurements real quick and get it straight in how I'm going to go ahead and apply it and start filling in everything. So it's going to take a good amount. These are some pretty good sized gaps. So I'll mix it up and I'll be back. Okay, I've returned from mixing up a batch of this rock hard putty. As you can see, I've got it mixed in the pan. Measurement that I got to give me the consistency I'm looking for here was 4 cups of the powder, the actual rock hard putty, and then a cup and a half of water. Gave me what I'm thinking I'm looking for. Sometimes you work it and get it, you know, just a little more thick. I worked it pretty hard though, so I wouldn't say that it's got a real super fast set and cure time, but it's I mean, it's not something you want to just take a real long time with. You still, if you're covering a lot with a lot, you're going to want to work it and not let it dry up on you. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Just to backtrack a quick second. I kind of got hung up trying to think what else I may have wanted to mention with bonding agent. And it was just, I didn't see anything on there about shaking it up or stirring it up. So I don't know that that's necessary to shake that. So right now, I saw the video time. It's at 1 hour and 45 minutes, just to give you a idea of timing, although I am stopping a lot talking. So if I was no footage, just to go at it, it'd probably be somewhere around probably 45 minutes to an hour in at this point on the time. So not an extreme amount of time, but I'm gonna work it, get it all off the edges of the pan. They say a good rule of thumb is to get it like a creamy peanut butter. So that's basically how I view it too. Once I heard that, it's a pretty good match. You don't want it too runny. Applying it and seeing it run down, so I did go slightly on the thicker side. Man, it's going to take a good amount. I don't know if I'll even catch the footage of all that this evening. I may stop. I don't know if you can tell, but the sun's starting to set, and we'll just see. I'll go ahead and mix this up, see where we're at from there. Or I'll apply it and then come back and see where we are from there. So I'm not going to go. I'd say this plaster's about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm not going to go that thick with this stuff. I'd say I'll match up to almost maybe a 1/2 of what that plaster's built out. And then once this is all dry, most likely tomorrow, I'll come back over it with the Durabond and give it a flatter look from that point, but that'll be a process in itself, and I will probably use wood glue at that point to help it adheres to the rock hard putty. But deep in the base, I'm coming with the rock hard putty right now. So here's what I'm about to do. Okay, so just to give you an idea of how far you would make it with a batch like that, that was a decent amount in the pan, probably a little over a half pan full. You don't normally want to work with a completely filled up pan. It's harder to mix while you're starting and getting it mixed up, and then it's a lot to try to work with. So normally don't make a whole pan at a time, maybe 2/3, even 3/4 sometimes, but that was a little over a half pan on the 4 cups of the powder versus a 1.5 cups of water. So pretty thick buildup around the edge, give it more of an angle coming in. So all the edges closed in. Definitely going to use more than I expected. I've never covered this kind of ground with it. It's always been gaps, maybe 3 or 4 inches long, a couple inches wide, a couple inches deep, stuff like that. So thinking strategy, time management and life, stuff like that. Other stuff I'd like to get done this evening too. I'm thinking that's a good spot to stop for now, and then I'll return on camera, and it'll be tomorrow at that point. As far as I know, my partner John's coming by to help, and we'll both, I may catch the footage and time lapse both of us on that. What it's looking like I'll end up doing at this point, make a batch. I'll give him a batch. So I'll fill, say for example, I'll fill in here, he'll fill in there, I'll fill in up top. He may, a lot of that's pretty close to the brick still. May even come in, depending on how dry this stuff is. Not 100% sure on the cure time. I'll try to include that in the video by the end, or even tomorrow when I come back. I'm assuming it'll be pretty dry and able to add to it at that point. Cured, hardened, whatever you want to call it. It's looking like quite a bit more of the rock hard putty involved than I thought it would be. So you're looking at probably, there was 1 batch, 2 batch, 3 batch, 4 batch, big spot up top. Probably looking at 5 batches just to get it started. And then there's other spots too. I don't know if you caught, I was kind of filling in here. There's a big crack over here. I doubt the camera's catching. This is pretty wide up top. Most likely this might as well. And that could get to Durabond too, if you can see this on camera. That could get either or, I would say. Really, Durabond could come in here too. Trying to come in as solid as I can with everything. I'm just going to go ahead and seal up the brickwork with this rock hard putty and then come with the Durabond. My experience, it isn't a real good idea to just mix up a big batch of Durabond and then come in and swipe it all in and hope that it sticks. At at least a 1/2 inch thick to 3/4 of an inch thick. Actually, I'll go grab a tape measure real quick and then I'll give a measurement how thick this plaster really is. Okay, it's a bit thicker than I thought, so it's about 1 inch. And that's about 3/4 of an inch, I guess, just depending on where you are on the wall. It's different depths. So that's my point, though. You don't really want to come in with a big bucket of, it doesn't matter what you got, and then just try to swipe in 1 inch fill. A lot of times it'll, the weight start to pull out. So I want to kind of build them out as I go and strengthen them like that. So you'll see the phases as it goes. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off for now. I'll be back tomorrow one way or another, whether partner makes it or not. I'm actually going to check with him when I cut this off. So either way, I'll be back tomorrow and I'll probably give it another quick run with the bonding agent. Just go ahead and brush some more on there real quick before we get started tomorrow. And then we'll go at it with, you know, like I said, probably anywhere between 5 to 8 pans of this, getting in as much as we can. And then there's some deeper spots up the stairs and up in the hallway, not as big as any of this. There's nothing like this going on up there, thank God. So we'll spend most of tomorrow getting the really, really deep stuff filled in and a lot more solid. And then that'll set up for the Durabond stage, which when I come with the Durabond, my plan is at that point I'll have already opened up all the cracks, chamfered everything out. So as I would come in and fill this with the Durabond, I can also be swiping across all of my cracks and pre-filling at the same time. So that's the strategy I'll be using there. So, hope you're all doing great. I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks. There was a slight change of plans. My partner John had informed me he was going to be a little delayed, so that's why he didn't appear in the time lapse. I went ahead and went forward with the spreading of the rock hard putty. He did show up as I was wrapping up and cleaning the pan and materials up. So and we went ahead and tackled another project going on outside. So just a brief summary on this stage. The rock hard putty, I'm pleased, as I figured I would be, with how it's dried. Extremely hard. The next stage will be Durabond. So can't really tell in this video. It'll need build out more with the Durabond, and that's a process in itself. So I'm not going to, this video is super long the way it is, so I'm not going to go in a description of how I'm going to work that stage. I'll do a separate video getting into the Durabond, and what will happen is I will give a slight bit of water to some wood glue, spread it around on this rock hard putty, and then come in with the Durabond, and then I can work in the cracks and stuff like that. But first, before the Durabonding starts, I'll need to chamfer out these cracks. That way I can wipe out the pre-filling all at once with the Durabond. Just to correct something I'd said earlier in the video, it seemed like I made 5 or 6 pans of this rock hard putty to complete this at this point. And I think I had mentioned like 4 cups of the rock hard putty powder to a 1.5 cups of water. That was the way that worked on that first pan, but that was an old, kind of like the bottom of the rock hard putty and the can. So all the fresh cans, a more accurate number would have been 4 cups of the rock hard putty to what would be slightly over a cup of water. My measuring cup went from 1 cup to 1/3. It was more along the lines of between a cup to a 1.25 cups of water, and that gave me more like about 1/3 of a pan, which wasn't too much to work with. And then that, you know, between a 1/2 pan and 1/3. So just taking a quick look where we're at now. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off. As I cut this off, something crossed my mind I just want to add in real quick. And that's that it doesn't really give us very specific set and cure time. And I just want to make note that the set time was, to me, was extremely quick. So it's not something you want to be, if you got people around, standing around talking with the pan in your hand or setting it down, you want to get it on the wall pretty quick. A lot of times I've used it in small areas, and so I didn't really have to worry about timing. To spread it around in these big areas, I would say that you want to get it in the wall within probably 15-20 minutes tops. So you might as well call it some 15-minute mud style stuff, because it'll start hardening in the pan even with you working it around pretty quick. So you want to have yourself set up pretty good and know exactly what you want to go out with it, get it mixed, and go straight for your targeted area. So that's all. Take care. Have a great day.